Should be going pretty live here. Yes, indeedy. Hey, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. And I want to thank you so much for joining us today on what is a really special time for me. And we're just way excited to have you on with us. Now, as we walk through this, I just want to really introduce you, if I may, to a friend of mine that is joining me here. And I am really excited about this. You know this to be our All-In Thursday videocasts. And our All-In Thursday videocasts are really special to me because they were given to me on faith on one of those early mornings when I was just hanging out with God. And God said, trust me, this is what I want you to do. I want you to talk to people of influence that not everybody gets to meet. But you know that these people are life changers. So if you remember, once upon a time, about 6 weeks ago, we did an all-in with Scott Rogers, a pastor from Houston, powerful guy. And then we interviewed and talked to our friend John Grams, who was in Celebrate Recovery. Then the week after that, we had Greg and Julie Gorman talking about marriage on a deep level. And then we had Bruce Nollenberger, interesting, same last name, talk about financial issues. And then we had Mike Lunar, who was a general manager and a partner at a dealership in Mid-America. And then, of course, we had my wife, Mary, who has been a superstar in commercial real estate. And she talked about how to navigate through that jungle that is the testosterone business of development. Today, we've got one of the gentlemen that I've idolized and called a mentor for years. I met Eustace Mita years ago when I was with a company called Half a Car. And at that time, Half a Car was the largest automobile sales training company in the world. As a matter of fact, Half a Car influenced me more than any other place I've ever been able to work at in my life. And there was a culture in there, there was family in there, and there was faith integrated into that company. And nowadays, if anyone's been in the industry for any period of time, they get that Half a Car was a deal difference maker. So I want to introduce you to the gentleman who was the president of Half a Car for many years. He's going to tell us that story. He's an incredible father. He's got 5 kids. He's had a really long marriage, a great marriage with his wife, Susie. So, and he's a man of big time faith. So when we talk about faith and family and culture, can't think of anybody that I would rather introduce you to than Eustace Mita. So Eustace, thanks, my friend. Thanks for joining us this morning and this afternoon.
My pleasure, Bart. My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
You have a history that, not, again, some of us watching this know and others don't. Would you share with us the story of your success up to this point? And we've got 25 minutes, so I want to hear your story.
All right, we're going to talk fast then, Bart. And, you know, just to give you a quickie, I grew up in a family of 5. I have 5 children, 2 boys and 3 girls. And that's the same family I grew up in, 1 brother and 3 sisters. Susie and I have been married for 43 years. I'm not that old, Bart. We were married young at 21. And we now have 15 grandchildren. And it's been just a great blessing. My first job, I started as a busboy in a hotel in Avalon, New Jersey, called the Princeton. I was 13 years old, then I went on to be a waiter, so that was a big move for me. And then at 16, when I was in high school, I worked at an Arco station because I just love the smell of gas. I've been in automotive and real estate development all my life. For the first 20 years of my career, 90% automotive, 10% development. And for the last 20 years, do you believe that, Bart? It was 20 years ago we sold Half a Car. For the last 20 years, 90% development with hotels and whatnot, and 10% automotive, because you know, once it's in your blood, it's in your blood. While at the Arco station, I started to buy and sell 65 Mustangs on the weekends when I was in high school. And that was my first experience with buying and selling cars. And for those of us who have been in the business, used cars is a great way to start, because you can lose a lot and you can make a lot. So I got some great lessons at the age of 16. Then went from there, went to Drexel University. And when I left Drexel, I went down to Texas. Great experience. It was a startup company called Sportorama. And you may not have known about that, Bart. And that was an amusement park in a mall. I was dating Susie in Philadelphia. I came back a year and a half later. We got engaged and then married. Moved her to Dallas, Texas. Because I'm an automotive fanatic, I went from there to the Chilton Company, which was a very big automotive publishing company. They moved me out to Chicago, which was a great experience. And, you know, once I felt that I had mastered a certain vocation, if you will, then I wanted to move on. So my dream was to own a car dealership. I had pennies in the pocket, Bart, nothing in the bank. You know that story. And so I said to myself, who do I think the sharpest guy in the business is? For me, it was a guy by the name of Roger Penske. So I sat down at the age of 24 and I wrote him a letter and I said, you're the best. I want to learn from the best. If I don't hear from you, I'm going to be on your doorstep in 7 days. What do you think happened, Bart?
I know that what happened.
That's right. So 5 days later, that's right. 5 days later, I get a letter and he says, you know, next time you're in the Philadelphia area, because we're living in Chicago, come see us. And I still remember the guy, his HR guy, Bob Carter. And so I said to Susie, I was so excited. For me, it was like hearing from the biggest rock star, you know, your hero. And so I made sure we were in Philadelphia the next week, and then had a great time, went to work with Penske, left because my uncle, who had really invented personal leasing, had started a company. And so I took the principles that he had taught me, and I started a leasing company called, guess, MITA, Mita Leasing, my last name. That was in 1984. In 1989, Roger and I got back together. He said, listen, why don't you come? There's a new make and model, a new car company called Lexus. And he said, they're going to give me the franchise in New York. I already have Cadillac, so I can't call Penske Cadillac. Why don't you come back? We'll put a partnership together, and we'll call it Mita Lexus or something like that. So I was very excited about that. I was going to trade Mita Leasing with him. Went to see my uncle, who I had a ton of respect for, and told him what I was thinking of doing. And he said, well, listen, I was hoping you and I could do something together. Why don't you come with me at half a car? Well, it wasn't an easy decision, but blood is thicker than water. So I sat down and I wrote Roger a letter, and I said, Roger, my uncle, who he knew, had invented leasing, and I said, I want to change the way the world drives cars. And so I joined my uncle, and we were off to the races. And at that time, there was 12, well, we weren't Catalyst at the time, but 12 trainers. And that was in 1988, 1989. And I still had Mita Leasing. So I was Mita Leasing 30%, 70% half a car. 24 months later, 1990, went to 100% half a car. And well, 99%, 1% Mita Leasing, which still operates today. And so that was the journey of a lifetime. And, Bart, I know is going to ask me, so let me just talk about the culture for a minute. And our culture was unbelievable. And I think Bart mentioned that to you. And what really, I think, that drove the culture, there was a lot of things. But here, to me, is what drove it mostly. I read a book in 1986 by a guy by the name of Charles Garfield. And Charles Garfield, believe it or not, was a rocket scientist. He graduated, I believe it was MIT, might have been Harvard, but either way, he wanted to get a job with NASA. So he goes to Houston, gets an interview, and he walks in and he said, you could feel the energy in that place was beyond belief. And he goes to his boss, let's say the guy wasn't hired yet, but let's say his name was Bart. And he says, Mr. Bart, he said, this place is so full of energy. He said, what's everybody so excited about? Now, this was in the 60s. And so he says to him, come outside. I want to show you something. So he takes Charles Garfield outside and he points up to the moon. And he says, son, for 20 years, I felt like a piece of furniture around here. But he said, now we got a mission. He said, we got a mission. He said, we're going to the moon. We are going to the moon. And if you remember, John F. Kennedy gave a great speech, and he said those exact words. We're going to the moon, and we're going to do it in this decade. It's really decade, but with a Boston accent, it's decade. And so Garfield said that everybody was so excited about that. For the next 2 years, he said it was unbelievable how happy and just joyful. And so what happened is 2 years later, they hit the moon. And Garfield noticed that the next few months, all of a sudden the morale started to go down. And he said, all of a sudden, something that never happened before, people talking about each other and gossiping. And it was never like that, he said. He goes to his boss again, Mr. Bart, and he says, Mr. Bart, what happened? This was the happiest place in the world to work. He said, nothing's the same, morale's low. So it was daytime, but Mr. Bart takes him outside. He says, come here, I want to show you something. They walk outside like they had a couple of years previous, and he points to the moon, and he says, mission accomplished, mission accomplished. So that was a very big lesson for me, because what it said to me is you always have to keep a mission in front of you. And to me, that's one of the things that made Half a Car so successful, because our mission was to change the way the world drives cars, not the way Philadelphia drives cars, not the way Chicago, no, the world. So we had a big canvas and a lot to accomplish. And the fact is our mission was never over. So in those next 10 years, we spent going all around the world. We weren't, when I joined with the 12 of us, we were basically a little East Coast and West Coast. And then we went to Europe. We ended up being in 19 countries around the world. We went to France, England, Spain. By the way, everywhere we went, they said, it's not going to work in the UK. It's certainly not going to work in Spain. Well, it's not going to work in Italy because nobody gets new cars. They trades cars and they keep passing them down. Leasing's not going to work. Everybody buys their cars. We got 40% share market in UK. We got 40% share market in Italy. And then we went to France and Spain and Taiwan and Germany. And they said, it won't work in Germany. By the way, they were right. Germany was really tough. They're very stubborn over there, the Germans. But it did work eventually, but it was a tough hill to climb. So the point is, we always had a great mission in front of us, and everybody, and Bart can attest to this, bought into the mission. And it was very, very exciting because we had something that they never had before in a dealership. So I think mission had a lot to do with it, Bart.
Yeah, I love that word mission. As I look to build a business, you just help me. Mission, have to put a mission in place. What's the mission? And having a high ceiling too. You said, we're not just going to take on Philly, we're going to take on the world. And you know what's so interesting about that? If we think about that, we got together last year in July and we hadn't seen each other in 25 years. You look exactly the same, except for a few little gray hairs on the side, and me too, right?
You do, Bart. You much more. You look better than I do.
Stop. And then we got together like we'd seen each other last week. I mean, to me, that was what's amazing. Why is that? How is that we had this brotherhood and sisterhood that that cannot be broken? That any company I've ever worked for, whether it's retail or out of retail, could not match this. Why?
Well, Bart, besides mission, you have to have a vision. And as you know, J.E., as we called him, my uncle, he had a great vision. And he was able to impart that vision onto all of us and make us feel a part of it. And we were a part of it. And I think that's really what it was. And we were, which Icona is too, a flat organization. Meaning, it's interesting, when we sold our company in 2000 to the largest IT company in the United States, IT for automotive. I won't mention their name, but it was Reynolds & Reynolds. And what's interesting, a great company, by the way, but a whole different culture. For example, if you walked in, I'd say, well, and I was going to introduce, I'd say, this is Bart Nolenberger. Bart works for me. This is Harvey Labinowitz. Harvey works for Scott. never did you have that kind of talk at half a car. It wasn't anybody works for anybody. It was that we all worked together towards the mission, towards the vision. Yes, you had operating responsibilities. I mean, somebody had to make the final decision. We had core leaders, which in the parlance of a dealership would have been the general manager. And it was, you know, it wasn't that they reported the general manager. It was that the general manager was responsible for them, was responsible for their own training, for their own education, for helping them not only to train dealerships, but to just to be a better person themselves. And so I think that was a lot of what went in, so that 20 years later, when we saw each other for the first time in 20 years, the feeling of warmth and love was still there.
Yeah. And, you know, that word love, I mean, you know, as the Bible says, patient and kind. And, you know, what I believe love means is we're servants. And that's what you taught us, my friend. You taught us to be servant leaders, to be humble servants. I love that. And I'll never forget one time you were on stage and I was coming up for something and you said, this guy epitomizes the humble servant. I got that from you. That just, how can I give? How can I give? How can I give? And I want to thank you for that publicly. Absolutely.
Well,
And
Bart,
that
we
was
really,
the difference. We didn't come from ego. We came from a mission and a vision. I love it. I love it.
No question. And if you look at, I'm showing, this is a cone of the most important people in Icona. We have our culture card and you can't read it, but at the very top is our guest. So they are the most important. The least important are at the very bottom. It's the CEO, the CFO, and the COO. And we're here to do one thing, to serve all the way up here. So the CEO, CFO, and COO, we're here to serve, you know, we serve the general managers, our directors, our managers, our supervisors, and then the team, which is our housekeeping. You know, they're the ones that are really in the grid and getting the job done, the most important people. So it really, creating a culture makes all the difference in the world. In this environment with low interest rates, capital in terms of money is not hard to find. What's hard to find is great human capital, And that's, you know, that's what we've tried to do at Icona.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear you break that down. I want to comment on something. You know, it's so interesting, especially right now. Not every dealership will say this is true, but there are a lot of dealerships that are cutting the margins to the bottom little bit, very thin margins. And a lot of them are having a lot of success. But the one area that's really concerning for me, and of course you have a heart for this, is that we are not investing in our human capital. And the result of that is, of course, every time we have somebody leaves, they never leave a company, they leave a person. John Maxwell says, and you just said it, that they don't want to know how much you know, they want to know how much you care. And again, the philosophies I've learned from John since I've been with John since 2013 are the same philosophies you taught me years ago. Can they trust you? Will you help them? Do you care? And it starts with the people. You can't get your agenda across unless you've got the people and you're connected with the people. And again, you taught me that. Would you tell us a little bit about, we wanted to talk about faith and family. Obviously, your culture that you've put in your home has been super, that has led to successful humans in so many ways. But tell us about faith and how it has influenced your family and also influenced the culture in your businesses. And then after that, I'd like to hear a little bit more about Icona and where you are now with Icona.
Sure. And I think we have about 10 minutes, Bart. So I'm going to try to get the important parts of that in. Bart talked about for many, many years, I mean, you know, I've been led by my faith. And, you know, as they say, people, you know, I'm not preaching. If you're atheist, you're atheist. If you're agnostic, you're agnostic. That's okay. But when people are in their greatest time of fear, it's amazing how they'll shout out, God help me, or oh my God. And so faith has played a very big part. I don't care who you are, whether you're Bart or me or anybody else, every one of us on this Zoom or on this call, we've all known sadness. We've all known heartache. Every one of us has had adversity in our lives. And there's 10 scrolls I don't have time to talk to you about, but they're written over 10,000 years ago. 10,000 years ago. And in one of those scrolls, in scroll 10, it says, when all else fails, that's who you call on. And I will tell you this, it's been huge in my life. Some people meditate in the morning. And I used to say my hierarchy of values was God, family, business. But what I really learned 20 years ago, which was just when we sold half a car, that I said it was at, I was going to church every morning. I still go 7 days a week. And I don't tell you that to impress you. There's a reason I do it, and I'll tell you that in a minute. But I was really there, and I was thinking, so I said, hey, here's my hierarchy: God, family, business. But the fact of the matter is, I love business. So even when I was in church, I was thinking business, 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 business. So I was really business, family, God. Probably 18 years ago, I turned that around and really did make it God, family, and business. And what's interesting is business took off at that point. You would think the opposite. No. And so by going through that hierarchy, and I start each day. So why do I go to church every day? Not just because that's my form of meditation, but I get to talk to my Creator. Number one, first thank Him for letting me wake up at yet another day. Wake up. Scroll number 5 in those 10 scrolls, 2,000 years old. Scroll number 5 goes like this: I will live each day as if it is my last. Amen. I will live this day as if it is my last. And how I treat this last precious day, I'll think not of yesterday with its broken dreams and promises. For why should I throw good after bad? Tomorrow is gone. Let me keep it buried forever. Don't go back and keep beating yourself, for what you did in the past. Forget about that. Scroll number 5. Henceforth, I will think not of tomorrow, for maybe tomorrow will never come. So why should I throw now after maybe? Because maybe tomorrow's not going to come. Now is all I have. Henceforth, I will live this day as if it is my last. And if it is my last, it will be my best. And if it's not my last, I'll get down on my knees and thank God at the chance of another day. So I've tried to live my life like that in the past 18, 20 years. And also to teach my children that, but also to teach our company. And as Bart said, Icona is the company. It's half a car, as Bart said, that was the greatest company for all of us. So you can't find a company like that. So we said, and the reason I say we really means us, because we have a philosophy. At half a car was, you don't use the word I, you use the word we. Now at Icona, we've taken it even further. We say I is the least important word. We is the most important word. So I is the least, we is the most. The 2 most important words are thank you. You don't hear that today. The 3 most important words are would you please. The 4 most important words are what do you think? So you don't go into a meeting and say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. No, ask people, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Okay? So they're the 4 most important words. The 5 most important words, and I used to say this to Bart all the time, you did a great job. The 6 most important words, I admit that I was wrong. But let me just quickly, another thing that we have honed in on is, why is I the least important word? You know why? Because I isolates us. Think about this for a minute. This pandemic hit us. What was the first thing it did? We all became isolated. What do you do to the worst criminals in the world? You put them in prison. If they're really worse than the worst of the worst, what do? You put them in solitary confinement. What's that do? It isolates them. Same with the word I isolates. We unites. We unites. So we use we because it unites us together in a single-minded focus and mission. And that's what we do at Icona. That's what we do at Icona.
Perfect.
And, so I don't know how much time, Bart, but I want to tell you real quickly. We have a Down syndrome grandchild. And what we learned is people learn easiest in 3s. Doesn't matter if you're a baby or an adult, you learn easiest in 3s. And now that we're in this crazy soundbite world, it's even more important. So Bart and I talked about human capital. At half a car, we said, we're going to train you once a month if you're one of the best dealerships in the world. If you want to improve and improve well, we'll train you once a quarter. But very few, maybe 2% said train us once a month. At Icona, we train every single week. Miss a meal, don't miss training. And here's what we do. We train everybody. It isn't just the salespeople, because what we learned at Half a Car, you have to get buy-in from everybody, the GM, the dealer, the service manager, the parts manager. Well, at Icona, we bring the housekeepers, we bring food and beverage, from the bus boys up to the servers and the bartenders, and everybody has to be together. Why? Because we're a team. We don't use the word employees. That's a negative word. You're disconnected. Oh, he's an employee. Stop with the employees. Jack Welch did a great job. He said we're going to call them associates, but even associates is removed. No, we talk about a team. What happens when you get a team mentality is, if you win, you didn't just win by yourself. You won as a team. If you lose, you didn't lose by yourself. You lose it as a team. And there's no finger pointing. And we also say we all have a stake in each other. So at Icona, we teach you. Guest drives up, gets out of the car, valet is, hey, how are you, Mr. and Mrs. Bingo? So great to hear you. So happy you're part of Icona. You know, thanks for coming. And we say, thanks for coming home. We call it not back home. Words. So we always teach everything in threes. Here's three for you. Words paint pictures. Always use positive words, not just in talking to other people, but talking to yourself. And when we're educating and training our own people, if I see somebody's eyes glaze over, I whisper, and now everybody, I whisper and I say, you know what? This stuff works at home too. So if you feel like you're doing too hard at work, take this stuff home. It'll change your children's lives, your spouse's lives. So that's another thing we say, right? So words paint pictures. Always keep positive words. Music stirs the soul. Always keep it upbeat. Water soothes the soul. All our hotels happen to be on water because water soothes the soul. But we say to our own people, if you get down during the day, we're going to give you the greatest medicine in the world. Guess what? It's not a drug. It's not an opioid. It's not alcohol. Here's what we tell them. And I learned this, through my own experience when I was in my 20s. If you're sad and you want to be happy, go get your 3 favorite songs and play them. The upbeat ones, none of the negative ones, upbeat songs. Okay. And now here's another thing that tools in our people's tools box to make them happy. Because we say, don't come in if you're not going to be happy. But here's some ways to get yourself happy on the way to work. Play your 3 favorite songs and ask yourselves a question. Are you happy because you smile, or do you smile because you're happy? It doesn't matter. They both work. If you're smiling, it could be because you're happy. And we say to our people in food and beverage, watch this. We're going to show you a technique how to double your tips. It's the greatest thing in the world. Watch this. And people can feel it 300 feet away. Okay? If you smile, you'll double your tips. So another philosophy we have, don't walk by a teammate in the hallway. I don't care if you walk by the front desk 100 times. If Bart's there, walk by and always say, hey, Bart, hey, Bart. And if you're in a hurry, run by and go, hey, Bart, hey, Bart. We see people sitting in our lobby, they can't believe it. They're there. These people are either nuts or they really love each other. Well, let me tell you what the results have been real quick. In our 3 major, or when I say major, our main hotels, we didn't want to take a Hilton franchise or Marriott, so we made up our own name, okay? Our name is Icona. Remember we talked about mission? Instead of calling it Mita Hotels, my last name, no, Icona. Why? Because if anybody asks the busboy or the GM of our hotels, hey, where'd you get that name? We say, we know it's an interesting question. If you cover the A, it says icon. In Wikipedia, an icon is a sacred place, person, or thing. So our hotels, we say, are heavenly places where we want our guests to experience our aloha spirit, which is what the A stands for, aloha, which in Wikipedia means warmth, welcome, and love. Notice how we kept it to 3 things on both. So we say our hotels are sacred places where we want our guests to have a heavenly experience and feel our warmth, welcome, and love. And dare we use this word in training? We used to whisper and say, listen to this. It's called, our secret is L-O-V-E, love. But we say, you can't love our guests unless we love each other. So we have a problem with each other. Make sure we don't go to bed just like a spouse. Make sure we work out that problem. We work out the issue. Awesome. And here's been the result. You heard of Forbes 5 stars and AAA. When you get those awards, they're plaques that hang on your wall, but one person comes in with a checkbook. The only measurement that matters in the hotel business is TripAdvisor. Why? Because it's the voice of the guest. When we bought each one of our hotels, we were rated dead last. When we bought our hotel in Diamond Beach, there was 76 hotels, we were rated dead last. When we changed it to Icona, we went from dead last to #1. Same thing in Avalon, dead last. We went from dead last to number one. Same thing in Cape May, dead last. Out of 38 hotels, we're number one. But here's what's most important. There's 1,100 hotels in the state of New Jersey, and we're always rated in the top 10. Now, to give you a comparison, because Bart told me the law of contrast, how important that is, there's 5,000 banks in the USA. There's 15,000 dealerships of size in the USA. There's 100,000 hotels in the USA. Our main three are rated in the top 100 out of 100,000 hotels. Now, are any of our buildings as nice as the Ritz Laguna Niguel? No. Are any of our buildings as nice as the Four Seasons Maui? No. Well, then what happens? Here's what happens. In between the floor and the ceiling and our four walls, we give them an experience they don't even know how to explain. It's called LOVE. And that's why we've gotten TripAdvisor this year. Our Diamond Beach Hotel was rated number 7 in the entire United States of America. Number 7. And you can go to our website, Icona.com, and you'll look at it. It's a very nice hotel. But what we give them comes from here, right here. Can you see that? There's 18 inches between your head and your heart. My wife's a nurse. She taught me this. 18 inches, okay? 90+% of companies, ladies and gentlemen, lead with their heads. We lead with our heart. Times change, people change, but philosophies, good business principles, they don't change. We took the same business principles that we used in the automotive industry. We brought them to the hospitality industry. We also have a commercial construction company called Caritas. We have a home building company called a Christovest. All those same principles apply. Each one is number one in their category. Why? Culture. But you can't fake it. You can't. We hold ourselves accountable. I say, listen, I'm the CEO. If you see me letting down on warmth, welcome, and love, if you see me letting down on any of those things, we say there's only 3 things. How about that, Bart? That you have to do to join Team Icona. That you have to have. Number 1, you have to have a passion for people. Why? Because we're in the people-loving business. If you don't love people, it doesn't make you a bad guy, but you're in their own business. Number 2, we say you got to have a heart for hospitality. Our Lord said that the highest form of love is to serve. The highest form of love is to serve. That's all we do in our business is serve people. Food, drinks, beds, that's all we do. It's humble work, but it's the most gratifying work I've ever done in my life. The third thing, so number 1, passion for people. Number 2, heart for hospitality. Number 3, we say, remember I said words paint pictures, no negative words? We take the word work and we throw it in the trash can. And we say, we don't come to work. This is our vocation. This is our vocation. Our mission. It's a vocation. So hospitality is a vocation for us. And so that really is what fuels Icona on a daily basis.
Man, I've got like 3 pages of notes. That is so strong. So strong. So thank you so much. I mean, I'm open to keep this going, but I know you've got a schedule and I just can't thank you enough for the nuggets you've given us. What I'm going to do too, by anybody who's watching this, go ahead and my email is bartn17@gmail.com, bartn17@gmail. Go ahead and hit me up and I will send you those 10 scrolls that he was talking about. And if it's okay, I'll share your notes, if
Please,
that's okay with you.
No, that'd be great, Bart. And I do have about 4 more minutes. I would like to share one thing, and I'm asking everybody who's listening or watching, I'm asking you to just take this one last nugget. It's changed my entire life. It has changed my children's life, and I'm going to make sure it changed my grandchildren's life. And 2 of these I heard from a crazy insurance salesman, but I added a third because, as I said to Bart, when we teach, and I wish I knew this at half a car, I didn't, but people learn easiest in 3s. Think about this. What do you learn when you're growing up? ABC, 1, 2, 3. Michael Jackson said that's how easy love can be. Now watch this. Even when you're a baby, what do? As our babies are growing up, what do we read them? We read them nursery rhymes. Okay, and what are those nursery rhymes? The 3 little pigs, the 3 bears, the 3 blind mice, the poor little things hitting the walls and whatnot. But here's a nugget I want to leave you with. There are three things that are going to change you from who you are today and who you're going to be tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that. And an iPhone can't help you with these three. Technology is not going to be able to help you with these three. And here's what they are. The books you read, the people you meet, and the goals you set. And I know you hear that from everybody, I'm sure, John Maxwell and, every guru that you can think of. They say goals, goals, goals. No, we don't just say set goals. It's the goals you set and achieve. The goals you set and achieve. So let me give them to me again. Three things going to change you. The books you read, the people you meet, the goals you set and achieve. And I'll just give you fast examples in my own life. I read, there's 5 books, because I'm not in my library right now, but I have hundreds and hundreds of books. People are in such a hurry today. I say, just read these 5. They'll change your life forever. One book, I'd gotten this, Bart, you remember this name, when I was 17 years old, from Peg O'Neill. She's deceased, but she was my aunt, and she was the head of our HAC university. And at 17, I had, my mother had 2 sisters, and they were great taskmasters. And she gave me a book once to read after she had said to me, Eustace, you're a winner. Now, I didn't feel like a winner at these times. I had, 2 parents who, great parents, but both alcoholics. And my dad made it his career after he became a certified addictions counselor. But so 17 years old, name of the book, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. I was so embarrassed about the title, I literally ripped the cover of the book off because I was really getting into reading it, but I was carrying it around. I didn't want anybody to see it. I threw it away. That book had an incredible influence on my life and how I look at a vision. We build homes. Well, before that homes ever gets built, we see what that home's going to look like before it ever comes up. Think and grow rich. So the thinking that goes into our businesses starts before we create the business. Second book, I'm only going to give you 3. I gave you 3 things, I'll give you 3 books. Second one, when I was in the 5th grade, my father came, he drove, I didn't know it was recess, he drove into the schoolyard, and he was a tough alcoholic, tough guy. At 75, he could bench press 300. So my brother Frank and I, he would boom, boom first and talk later. So I thought everybody was a fighter. He saw me fighting in the schoolyard, and then he saw me by myself. He brought me home a book that night in the 5th grade. He said, Eustace, he said, it broke my heart to see you out there. He said, I noticed you didn't have any friends. He said, so I want you to read this book. And he gave me the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. That book changed my life. 3 things going to change your life. The books you read, the people you meet, the goals you set and achieve. Here's what it did for me. That was over 50 years ago, okay? I have read that book every year since. I've read the book every year since. 3 things that it taught me that I've taken into our business. The most important sound, see, I'm only giving you 3, because I know you remember. The most important sound to a person's ears is the sound of their own name. Instead of saying, hey, yo. So at Icona, guess what we always wear? Name tags. And we say, don't you pass anybody, don't you go, hey, yo, hello, Bart. Hello, Bart. Hello, John. Hello, George. Hello, Victoria. Hello, Joanne. Always use your name, okay? That's what I learned. The second thing I learned from How to Win Friends and Influence People. Nobody ever blames themselves, so there's no sense you blaming them. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. No blame games. How can you help people? Third thing, this may be the most important thing I learned. The greatest craving of the human heart is appreciation. It's the greatest craving. So when you appreciate your team members like we do at Icona, it lifts them up. Words paint pictures. It lifts them up. Music stirs the soul. Jackie Wilson sings, your love, it lifts me higher than I've ever been before. And that's what we do. We lift them higher. The books you read, okay? Third book, you got to get this one. Og Mandino, the greatest salesman in the world. Sadly, the title, people don't realize what's in that book. No man could have written it. That book was inspired by God. That's where the 10 scrolls came from. So that's fit for the books you read. People you meet. I said I wanted to work for the best guy in the car business, okay? In dealerships. Roger Penske. What'd I do? I sat down and wrote a letter. That came from Think and Grow Rich when I was 17 years old. A guy by the name of Darby said he wanted to work for the greatest inventor of all time. His name was Thomas Edison. So he didn't go to the HR department at Thomas Edison. He got on a train. This is back in the early 1900s. And he rode a freight train and he ended up in Thomas Edison's desk. Guess what? He became his partner. He and Thomas Edison became partners. 20 years after I left Penske, Roger and I became partners too in a company called Penske Capital Partners. So my point is, look at that. That came from me reading that book. It said, you think that changed my life? You can't see it, but behind here, maybe it can, Bart. Let me lift that up. You can't see on the wall, but there's pictures of me with the Pope, the people you meet, Roger Penske, the Pope, Bart Nolenberger, geniuses in the business, Eustace Walkington. These are the people you want to hang with. I learned when I was in the 6th grade, I hung with a rough crowd. And the good sister said to me, show me your friends, Mr. Mita, and I'll tell you what you're like. So from that point on, I just hung with people that would make me a better person, would challenge me to be a better person. So you do the same things. Watch who you're surrounding yourself with. Are they bringing you up? Are they bringing you down? Are you bringing people up? You're bringing them down. Books you read, people you meet, goals you set and achieve. We don't have time to get into that, but half a car was a great achievement for every one of us there. Icona has been a great achievement for everybody who's there. It's been a great achievement financially, but mostly spiritually. So remember this, 18 inches between your head and your heart. Lead with your heart. God bless you, brother.
Hey, perfect. Thank you so much. If somebody wants to reach out for you, is it all right if is there an email that I can give them? There
is, Bart. You can give them Mita, my first initial E, last name Mita, Mita, EMITA at Icona, ICONA.com, Icona.com.
Perfect. I'm going to share this. Anybody watching this an hour later, hey, the deal is they might not be seeing it live, but a lot of people come back after. I think for a week, they'll keep coming back and coming back. So, man, that's going to be a life changer. And it was for me. It's seriously, I get hyped up, get excited. I can't come from any more authenticity and vulnerability than to say, you changed my life. You are my hero, and you are the best of the best in the automobile business. And I love you, my friend. I really do. God bless you.
I love you too, Bart. God bless. Mwah.
Thanks for everything. Really appreciate you. Thanks, folks. Appreciate you joining us. Share this with people. And again, hit me up and I'll share the notes. God bless everyone. Thanks, Eustace. Appreciate you so much.